Hey there, I wanted to put this up because I had a great day today and I wanted to share with the Comedy Gold Seekers community the different things that happened. So one of the things was, after talking with Jeff and Katie, they had mentioned that there's a group called ACM, and ACM is the National Organization of Cable Access Affiliates. And when I looked at the website, it turns out that they were having the Northeast region was having its conference the last couple days. And today I decided to go down because there was going to be a presentation about fundraising and revenue diversification. And that is one of the goals of the show, is to come up with a show that can really help to be a revenue generator for the cable affiliate where we're making the show, which is ACMI in Arlington, Mass. And I am so glad that I went to the show today. I met a lot of great people. So I got up at 5 o'clock, took an Uber to Back Bay, took the train down to New London, Connecticut, took the bus from New London, Connecticut over to Mystic, and then there it was at the Mystic Hilton, and met a lot of people. So one of the things that I did was I figured I want to meet the people that are going to make a difference, and those people, in my experience, are the ones that are doing service. So I made a list of different people. The top group are the people that were going to be involved with the fundraising and revenue diversification. So I met with Owen Preventure, who is the director at Dairy Cam, and that was a really great conversation. I told him I wanted to come back. That was after the annual meeting. The annual meeting actually was terrific as well. I could tell you about that another time. But yeah, so really nice connect with Owen. I mentioned the idea for the show that is essentially, in sort of a summary thing, it is, Bob Ross, Julia Childs, Steve Katzos, and Fred Rogers want to create an educational show about all things comedy. And yeah, so great conversation with Owen. Then I went over and talked to some people at the registration table. And over there, I have the bottom part of the list is the list of the officers. So the officers, the president of ACM Northeast is Jim Palmer. The vice president is Glenn Williams. Treasurer is Barbara Chisholm. I met all three of them. The secretary, David, was not at the event. He Zoomed in, but I didn't get a chance to connect with him. I also met with Rob Chapman, Tim Egan I talked to, and Liz DeFiore, and also had a nice conversation as well with Erica Bradley at the check-in table. So a lot of super people. And I have a bunch of notes about the different things that came up, and I thought this would be something to share because not only do I want to learn how to do a better job of fundraising and revenue diversification for ACMI, I also want to learn how to do it for the show. And by extension, I'd like to do that for the affiliates in the Northeast. So if you weren't able to make it, if you're an ACM person, these are some of the things that came up. So that, again, these are just my notes. Okay, yeah. So so one of the things that was news to me is that the station can be a 501c3 or it can be a town department. It's organized different ways in different communities. And had a really great conversation. I got his card later on when we talked. Bill Jennings, who's the station manager at BCTV, one of the things that he mentioned was doing underwriting or getting underwriting for different sports programs. So one of the things that they've done is they had a goal to raise $25,000, and they went to 5 different categories with one entity per category and raised $5,000 a piece. And I thought that was just a genius idea. So he's going to a bank, healthcare company, insurance, real estate, and a restaurant. And I just love that idea. So that's an idea that I'm going to bring back for myself for the show, but also to bring back to ACMI. The other thing is with Google Analytics and YouTube Analytics, it's possible to see how the show is doing, and that's a great way to have data to make your pitch to the different people that are going to be sponsoring, because if you can show them how many people their ads or their logo is going to be seen by, it just makes it a very tangible thing to do. And then there were some great things that came up from some other people as well. So one of the things Owen did was he had people talk about the success stories at their station so far as a way to sort of brainstorm and create a little bit of a mastermind right there. So Liz had mentioned some things that they've done. They actually did some crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, they used a site called Patronicity. It was the first time they did it. They made most of the money in the first 5 days. They had like a water balloon toss where you put the name of the person on the water balloon, naming a microphone after a person, etc. But those were some great ideas that I had not thought about. So crowdfunding is one of the things, and Liz DeFiore is the person who brought that up. And then Jenny Evans had mentioned some things. So she's in Connecticut, and one of the things they did was they did a Rally Up lottery, because in Connecticut you can do a lottery. And they put together the thing using Rally Up, and they were able to raise, I forget the exact dollar amount, but essentially it was a great idea, and they had multiple winners, so that multiple people around the state or their viewing area could benefit from it, which I also thought was a genius idea. Another thing that they have been doing is when they do remote shoots, they're doing something called tripod wraps. In a tripod wrap, they've got information about the show with a QR code, so when they're out filming, people can see that and they can connect with the station that way, which I thought was a great idea. She also mentioned one of the shows that's been very popular. It's a 14-year show, which I think is a very long run, as far as I know. 2 guys and a lot of wine. And they've done some wine-related events, and I think that's another great idea as well, is to tie in with the show with the fundraiser. One of the people, I didn't get their name after the meeting, but had done a film festival with a regional focus. And then the awareness came up. Somebody had mentioned that any effort that goes into fundraising gets taken away from programming. So there's always a trade-off when doing that, and that's something I want to keep in mind for the show and my fundraising. After the meeting, I met up with Nate Goodman, and one of the things that Nate had said is he's in Provincetown. They've got an end of summer parade. They're looking to do some fundraising around that to get some sponsors. And they also did a give and get program with their board, which I thought was genius. And if you want more about that, Nate Goodman would be the guy to talk to. Or if you contact me at the show, then I can put the 2 of you together. Yeah. And I also talked afterwards to Dan Young from Nashua. And one of the things he did is they've been looking at their analytics, and they were doing some things in one of the shows. They were able to see when they had the Indian performers on, that there was an uptick in viewers from India. And I thought the idea of being able to look at the data like that, I think is a great idea. And Dan Young also gave me his card. So Dan is the creative coordinator at Nashua Nashua Community Media. Dan Young. Paul from Framingham, Mass. had mentioned something about Filma, and Filma is something that I want to look into, and also they're working on a concert series. So there's some great ideas that Paul from Framingham are looking to use. Somebody had mentioned about having a community foundation. So when people are giving, if they don't want to give directly to the station, the idea of connecting with other nonprofits in the town or in the viewing area and creating a community foundation. So people could give to the community foundation, and then the community foundation could then issue grants out to the cable access station and any of the other nonprofits in the area. I know in Boston there's something called the Boston Foundation, which is gigantic. One of the things that at the end, there was a bit of a brainstorming session, again, under Owen's leadership, and wanted to ask some questions or put some ideas out there. One of the things he said, which I thought was great, was to, in the area where the cable affiliate is to go back and ask, what are the other nonprofits in town doing that are successful, and beginning to share information with other nonprofits. Because if they're doing things that are effective, then that could be something that the station could benefit from, and likewise that the station could get involved in sharing the things that are working for them. I did share a few things about me. One of the things I'd mentioned was that on GuideStar, you can look and see how a nonprofit is doing. The form is a 990. It's a tax form that the nonprofit has to file with the IRS. And I said, I looked up Mr. Rogers Foundation. So Mr. Rogers is iconic, of course. And one of the things for my show is to have a segment. My name is Robert, so it'll be Mr. Robert's Neighborhood. But rather than teaching about, emotions and things, they'll be teaching about comedy. But the Mr. Rogers Foundation had $52 million in revenue as reported on their 990. And I think it was in the neighborhood of like $300 million in their endowment. So just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean it has to be small dollars. And one of the things I mentioned also was he started at WQED in Pittsburgh, and then it got picked up by PBS. So the idea about having a show, ideally that, if everything works out, for my show to be an award-winning show, and then have it get picked up for larger distribution is one of the ways to grow as well. And I think for the station that is the one that sort of incubates that show, that I think it's also going to reflect and come back to that cable affiliate. I mentioned my show is going to be a comedy education show. So one of the thoughts I had about how to help the region is that to have a segment in my show called Joking Around. And what that'll be, that to be going out to different places in Arlington and setting up a camera, like a little pop-up studio, and then letting people just tell a joke. So not stand up, but just telling a joke that they like. And I think having people on there telling jokes, and pretty much every company or organization has people that are sort of known to be funny, known to have good senses of humor. Then having those people come and be on, I think, would be great. And then also then I think people would want to watch, and that person that told the joke would tell their friends and get more people involved in watching the show that way. But the idea is that the Joking Around segment would be something that an affiliate can swap out and put in their own Joking Around segment. So my jokes will be in Arlington because ACMI is in Arlington, Mass. If somebody's in Bedford, New Hampshire, then they just do their own pop-up jokes. They record those, and then in my show, when they get to that point, boom, then it goes to the local affiliate. And I think that's a great way to create a wider audience for the show, but also to bring in content that's customizable for the local affiliate. Let's see. Alan Russell had mentioned about art galleries, and they've done some very interesting things. You could talk to Alan about that, but where they will televise gallery showings, and that any things that sell, I think the station gets a percentage, maybe 10%, whereas if an art gallery does it, they get 50%. And I think that if I remember correctly, Alan, at their studio location, they have the ability to have art on display, so they have essentially their own art gallery. Okay, so a couple of the shout outs of things that I got at the show. I had a nice conversation with a couple of vendors. One of the ones was Zoe Harris. Zoe is the person that was there from Barbizon, and they wrap up a lot of different lines. And one of the things that she explained to me, which I didn't know, was the difference about, or what's a gaffer and what's a grip. And they both have to do with lighting. So I didn't know that, but that was interesting to know. And then I also had a nice conversation with Paul Plotkin. Paul is a rep from G&G Technologies, and Paul, as we were talking, he mentioned a show, or a movie that he was involved with producing, and let me get that. Yeah, it's called Raising Matty Christian. It's a documentary he was involved in the production side of. So Raising Matty Christian, he showed me a little bit of it. The trailer, very engaging, about a person who was a quadriplegic but became a great inspiration and a great athlete. So check that out. That's available on Amazon. And then after one of the meetings, I had a nice conversation in the hallway with two people from Vermont, MK Harrelson. MK is the production coordinator, and she and the executive director, Amy Parnell, were there. They gave me their cards, and we talked about some things as well. And one of the things they mentioned was they said, "Oh, am I going to syndicate the show?" And I've heard the word, but I would like to get it out to multiple people. But they mentioned with syndication is that if an affiliate puts it up on one of these big servers, Teleview or other Cablecast is another one they mentioned, but putting it up there makes it easy for other affiliates to download it. And with the aspiration to have that Joking Around segment, I would love to get it out to multiple places. So that's something I'll talk to Jeff and Katie at ACMI about syndicating the show. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's it for now. There's a lot more from the show, but if anybody didn't get to the Northeast show for whatever reason, hopefully this video will give you some ideas about some of the things, especially around fundraising and revenue diversification. And yeah, it seems like a great organization. If you're in there, I would encourage you to get involved and volunteer on one of the boards, one of the committees, or as part of the state reps, because it seems like a great organization. Okay, that's it for now. Take care.